Hey everyone, and welcome to the My Ray of Sunshine podcast. My name is Mayra, and I'm here to help you receive the advice you deserve. Now, if you all are here, it's probably because you want to know exactly how you can start acknowledging your fears and being okay with them. And by me saying being okay with them, I don't mean that they just magically disappear overnight. If that's what you came for, I'm sorry, you're going to be very disappointed, and maybe you want to consider another podcast episode or video. I don't know. But honestly, I wish there was a formula for this. I wish there was just a bada bing, bada boom, it's out of your head. It's definitely something that you don't have to worry about. Everything's going to be okay. No. By me saying that you come into terms with your fears and just being okay with them is just basically meaning that you kind of have to bring yourself to accept that some things are completely out of your control, and that is okay. Life will work itself out in its own magical ways. Sometimes we can't have the answers to absolutely everything as much as we want. And trust me, I think that a lot of fears, I can't speak for everyone, but I feel like a lot of fears definitely stem from the lack of control. When you feel that life is controlling you, life is happening, things are happening, and you have no control over whether something happens or not happens, it's completely terrifying, to say the least. It is absolutely terrifying because you want to have that control. You want to be able to know that something is going to happen or not happen. You want to be able to know that you got a handle of it. And honestly, that's not the case at all. I mean, you just have to let life happen and step back. And that's the hardest thing for anyone to do. And honestly, I just also want to ask that you bear with me throughout this episode because I'm learning this as I go. I'm learning this with you right now because I just feel like my podcast episodes or my video podcast, if you're watching, I feel like they're becoming so therapeutic to me because I feel so connected to my viewers, my listeners, in some sort of weird way. And I feel like there's just so much that I want to share about this topic of fears. And let me just get right into it. So, I think, and I hope, that the first thing that you can do to acknowledge your fears is not ignoring them. Duh, Mayra. Acknowledge is complete opposite to ignoring. But honestly, pretending like your fears aren't there, it's not going to get you anywhere. You want to be able to learn about your fears. You want to be able to understand why you have those fears because they started somewhere. Something happened in your life that triggered your fear to happen. And whether it developed into a small fear that's completely insignificant, that doesn't take over your life or your thoughts on a daily basis, then, you'll never know. Basically, you'll never know how much it develops into or not develops into. But usually when someone is afraid, okay, you go from being scared of something. I don't want to trigger anyone, but then also I want you to understand. So I'll mention like the fear of spiders, okay? So it starts off with feeling scared of spiders. And if you feel like that is something that is keeping you from going out or leaving your room, anything at all, that is something that is developing way, way more than a fear. It's becoming a phobia. And you can recognize that by simply admitting the fact that, yes, these stupid spiders are overtaking your thoughts. They're overtaking your daily life, your routine. They're messing everything up. You're kind of trying to figure out a way to, in a sense, accommodate your life to avoid spiders as much as possible. Because simply the thought of encountering a spider or multiple is terrifying. And I completely 100% agree with that, because it's something that happens in our brains that really triggers a warning signal, like, warning, you can't continue your daily routines or your regular life without having these specific fears or phobias in your mind 24/7. And trust me, it is exhausting. I get it. I understand. And it's not fun to have something like continuously haunt your mind, because that's what phobias and fears do. They kind of haunt your mind into overpower your thoughts into thinking that like those thoughts are more powerful than reality. They're more powerful than anything that can come your way, pretty much. And it's annoying because it's like, hello, but also you also have to realize that like it's not that easy to kind of shoo past those thoughts. I know initially when I created my anxiety episode, I was just describing like an actual spider analogy of like, facing your fear in the eye and then just like shooing it out or killing that spider to kill that thought away. It's hard. It's really hard to just follow my analogy. And I thought I was like Einstein. I was like, wow, I discovered this analogy. But no, I'm not Einstein. I'm just Mayra. So it's very disappointing that it's not that easy. And I definitely want to highlight that and how difficult it is to actually move past a fear or phobia in general. And I think that once you start to acknowledge your fears, admit that you have them, and try to understand how they even occurred, like what triggered you to get that, or even if you have to rewind time to understand what really went wrong for you to develop such a huge fear. Sometimes it's for the best. And we might not always want to go back in time to think about what triggered it, but I think it's important to know so that way you understand yourself and you understand your brain a little bit and figure out what the heck is going on. And there's nothing wrong with you either for having these fears or these phobias. I think it all stems down to how things are presented in your life, and it shapes who you are. Because last week I was with my baby nephews, and they're so tiny and cute, but that's beside the point. And I realized that we're brought into this life, right? And everything that happens around us is something that like we start to carry on. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. The way that my uncle or my sister explained it was simply by saying that like babies start with like a blank disc, okay? They don't know anything. They can't talk yet. They rarely understand. They don't walk yet. And that's how you're brought into this world not knowing absolutely anything. And then you start growing up, you start walking, you start talking, and then it's like the way that you communicate with people, the way that you see other people communicate with each other, the way that just life happens around you impacts the way you grow up. It impacts the way you think, the way you feel, the way you act, the way you think. And I really do think that, like, sometimes it's necessary to rewind time to understand that aspect, that sometimes we learn certain things that unfortunately we have to unlearn growing up because it's not the right way, or you just know better. And I feel like that's the vast majority of, like, how you can truly start understanding and truly start wanting to know what caused your fears, your phobias, what triggered that to happen, in order for you to understand yourself and have a little bit of empathy in yourself as well, which again is easier said than done because I am way too hard on myself. I know so many people who can relate to that. So it's just a matter of, like, dealing with it and figuring out what you can do to combat those negative thoughts, those fears, those phobias, all of that all in one. And I honestly do wish that there was a formula, even though I hate math, so it wouldn't be a mathematical problem. But I just wish there was something that it's like, okay, if you do this and this will disappear. Like, just a subtraction from your mind, from your thoughts, from your daily life, from your daily routine. And I don't know, I feel like even if you don't have fears, you don't have phobias, like, none of that, like, you're lucky. You have to realize how lucky you are, because nothing really is, like, overpowering your life, your mind, your well-being. Like, nothing is overpowering it, and that's something that you can be proud of. And hopefully this episode helps you help a friend or someone you know and care about to kind of understand them a little bit better by just taking the time to listen to what I have to say. You won't regret it, I hope. But yeah, I mean, I think that's that was it. The end. End of episode. Thank you for listening or watching. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, I honestly feel that everyone just experiences life differently. And the reason why today in particular I wanted to take the time to make an episode was because I'm going through this right now. I don't know if I can get through it without a tear, but I'll try. I feel like the reason that I felt so motivated to make this episode right here, right now, is simply because there are so many fears in my life that have developed into phobias. And when something is a phobia, like I mentioned before, it just starts overpowering absolutely everything you do. And it sucks. Pretty much. In summary, it sucks. And I think that me growing up, I learned something new about myself each and every single day, which is great, but it's also scary because I'm like, Mayra, what the heck? You're a ray of sunshine. Why are you, like, in these, like, dark thoughts? or having these dark thoughts. Like, it sucks. I mean, it's horrible because having those thoughts, you feel like they define you, but in reality, they don't. It's just your mind, in a way, is kind of trying to perceive things rapidly, and you can't control it. And I feel like something I noticed within the past few months has been that I have an intense fear. And even saying this out loud is creeping me out because I also feel like I'm jinxing stuff and I don't want to jinx anything, but then also I want to talk about it to inform you. I don't know if you could relate to that. Like, I don't know. I'm freaking out because you know how you say something and it's like, knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen. That's how I feel. And of course I'm going to knock on wood. What the heck? But I have an intense fear of death. Like, intense. Whether that means losing someone I love, losing a pet I love, or me just, yes, knock on wood. And it's really hard. It's really hard to, like, live with that fear because you can't control it. I mean, it's like, it's just there. It's implanted in your brain. Like, from the moment you're born, pretty much you know that one day it's gonna end. And I don't really want to say those words out loud because it is terrifying to me to even talk about, like I said. But I mean, it's really scary, and I just wish it went away, to be honest. But it can't, and that's why sometimes you just have to be okay with it. Be okay with it not going away, and just trusting life and trusting that things will work itself out. Whatever is meant to happen will happen. And yeah, it's really hard to come into terms with. 1,010%. But I think me realizing, like, what actually stemmed it from happening, I remember this day perfectly because I was a little munchkin, probably about 6 or 7 years old, if not younger, maybe between 5 and 7, let's just say that. And I was sitting in the back of the car, and my parents were having a conversation. It was a serious, intense conversation because I remember it to this day, that they were talking about how one day, like, they were going to pass away, pretty much. And I was so young to understand that concept, okay? That I'm a child, literally. I barely knew any better. Obviously, I'm little. But that, to this day, that scarred me for life. And they were just, saying that one day they were going to get older and they were going to pass away. And the same thing would happen to me. As I get older, I would pass away. And basically all my loved ones around me would eventually pass away. And saying that to a little girl, like hearing those words that everyone I love will eventually pass away, and I myself would eventually pass away. Like, that terrified me and shook me to my core because I still didn't really know the concept of life and death. I did not know. I was way too young. And hearing that and them confirming that, yes, yeah, one day I will pass away. Like, I could not believe it. And I remember that day we were on our way to the mall. And I was so sad. Like, I was seriously so sad. I should have been happy that I'm, like, not in my room playing Barbies or something. But I was so sad because I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is life? What? You mean you're here one moment, then the next you're gone? Like, what? And I couldn't wrap my head around it, and I couldn't come to terms with that, to accept that. I just couldn't do it. It was so scary to hear and scarring at the same time that is why I have this fear. And I even discovered today that it's been more than a fear all along. It is a phobia because when something like overtakes your mind and your thoughts and you're always thinking about it every single day for longer than a week, in this case, for this specific fear, it would be 6 months or something, or a month. I don't know. But I was like, I have been afraid of this all my life. I'm 25, going on 26, and I've been terrified at the thought of death. I don't want to lose anyone I love. I don't want to lose myself. And it's so annoying and terrifying and just bizarre that you can't do anything about it. You just have to accept life. And I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's just too much. And especially since my boyfriend and I, we're going to be moving in together April 1st, whenever that is for you, like once this episode releases. But we're excited. We can't wait. But even like leading up to like us moving in together, like I've noticed how intense my phobia is. That fear. It's so intense. I think it intensifies with the situation and with how my life is going, pretty much. Because I know that, like, as soon as I knew that we were going to move in together, we're, like, buying stuff. Like, everything's happy, happy, happy. We're excited. We're in love. Everything. All of the above. And you would think that that's all, like, positive in my head. But in reality, it's not. Like, it's opened up a new door of fear, of uncertainty, and of lack of control. And it's made me think that, like, it's almost made me think that this is gonna sound awful in my head, especially. And once I say it, you'll realize why. But it's almost as like, it's just too perfect. Like, this new chapter in my life is just too perfect to even exist. And, like, I'm always afraid that, like, something will happen to jeopardize that. Knock on wood. And that something being death. Like, either me dying or someone I love dying. Like, I just can't handle it. And I don't really know how to control that fear. I wish I did, because I tell you, I promise. And I just don't. Like, I feel like it honestly intensified with this new chapter that we're both going into, and it turned something super happy and exciting to something like terrifying and life-changing. Like I don't know why. And it makes me mad because it's like, yes, I deserve this. Of course I deserve this. We both deserve this new chapter in our lives. Like, we both deserve to be happy and excited and just looking forward to it. And we are. We really, really are. That's all we talk about. That's all we think about. But then it's also like, can it be? Like, can I really step into this new chapter? Like, is something going to happen to me? Is something going to happen to him where this won't be able to happen anymore? Or, like, I just don't know. And I keep saying it's terrifying, it's scary, because it is. I don't know how to control these stupid thoughts. And I just don't know. It really sucks not having that control. It really sucks not, like, having a delete button in my brain that deletes as easy as a file does on a computer. I really wish it were that simple. I really do. Just delete and everything's good. Everything's fine. Everything's perfectly okay. But it is too good to be true. The good thing that stemmed from this intense fear is that I enjoy every moment and I try to really appreciate every single moment and just treasure it and hang on to it. But then that's also really scary at the same time, because it's like, I'm scared. I don't want this to be the last moment. Like, I don't know. I really don't know how or what to do in regards to that fear, because it's just so powerful, and like it's horrible to even think of. And I think I even saw a video of Gary Vee saying that, like, you should live every moment like it's your last. That way, like, you start getting comfortable with that feeling. Or obviously not a quote. I'm not quoting him. I suck at quoting people, unless I'm quoting quotes. But I don't know. I think it's so hard to do that. Like, it's so hard to just live every moment like it's your last. And, like, I hate the saying, only the good die young. Because I'm like, I don't want to be good. No, thank you. Like, what the heck? Why would that song even exist? Like, I really do not like that song at all, because I'm like, that just makes me want to rob a bank. Not that I will. For legal reasons, I won't. But, like, what? And I heard that again last week, but in Spanish. But basically, like, it's the good people. It's always the good people. It's never the bad people that do bad things where bad things happen to them. No, it's always like the good, innocent people where things happen. Knock on wood. Like, oh my gosh, this episode scares me. But, I mean, it's just like, what the heck? I don't know why that song was written, or like whether this is like a proven fact or just a sad truth or what, but like, it truthfully does not make me want to be a better person. But I mean, for the goodness of my heart and my own being, like, of course I'm gonna be good. But like, it's just so much to think about, like, so much for that thought to like be planted in my head every single day, you know? I don't know. It's really frustrating because we can't really do anything regarding our fears. We really can't. Like, it's just, they exist, they're implanted, and I really thought that there was like a way to just combat things, and maybe this fear did intensify because like a new chapter in my life is approaching. Maybe it could be why. Actually, that is why. Of course that's why. Because I've always had that fear, but like now I just think about it more often because I'm like, how can this really happen? You know, how can I be so close to moving in with my boyfriend, which is so exciting, and then, you know, continue our lives? Like, I don't know. That freaks me out. Like, and then I just see like regular people living their lives. They're like older, whatever, at least older than me. And I'm just like, wow, I wonder if they like get scared that they're gonna die or something. Like, I don't know. And I know I see that on TikTok a lot too, where this fear is like really common. You just really never know how intense someone's thoughts are and how devastating it can be to like live with that fear of like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And today, what kind of like triggered me specifically was that, jokingly, of course. Let me just give you the background story. Tomorrow, I am going to Atlanta for a work trip. It'll be my very first work trip. I'm excited, I'm nervous, but I'm mostly excited because it's something that's gonna be good for me. And I was just like hanging out with my family and whatever, and then my little sister like was just joking, like, and I'm also very sensitive, but like, you'll understand why. So, like, we were all like hanging out, like laughing, talking, like she was asking me if I was nervous. They were making me more nervous than I actually was, but we were laughing through it. And then my sister takes out her phone from a distance and starts recording me. And I'm like, what the heck? Because granted, this is my very first time ever traveling by myself, like 100%. I've always traveled like with a friend or with my family. Like, it was never like just me on a plane by myself. And that freaks me out a little bit. A lot of it, okay? And my little sister's like laughing and she's like recording me, and she's like, this will be like the last time like that I see you or something, because I'm gonna get lost or trapped in Atlanta, or I don't know. And I'm just like, girl, what? I freaked out because I'm like, what the heck? And I'm crying because it's like, I don't want to jinx anything, you know? It's so stupid, but it's like I just started panicking because I'm like, don't say that because you never know, and I'm scared and I don't want to know, but then also, can I just know it's going to be okay? Like, that's all I wanted to know. That everything was going to be okay, like 100%. But, you know, no one can say that. And also, like, I'm scared of, like, planes for that matter. Not too much, but it's just, you feel so powerless up in the air. Like, what do you hold on to? Like, literally last week when I was, like, traveling, like, there was turbulence on the flight, so I was like holding on to myself and like praying, and I'm like, oh my gosh, but everything was fine. But like, that stuff freaks me out all the time. Like, it really scares me. And you know, like, when she said that, like, obviously I know she did not like mean that in like a bad way. She was honestly just like trying to be silly and highlighting the fact that, like, I'm gonna get lost or that my flight's gonna be delayed. Like, all the bad things are gonna happen on the trip, but, like, no bad things, like, harmful things, just, like, stupid, silly things, like me being late or whatever the case may be. But, like, it really worried me a lot, and I just didn't know, like, what to do necessarily, like, how to get over that. And then I'm just like, man, I'm, like, really, like, I'm scared, like, I'm really scared about that, and it's just, it's so limiting. Like, they say live life to the fullest without fear, like, be fearless. Like, how when this fear was literally implanted, boop, when I was little, and now look at me. Like, I'm gonna be fine. I know tomorrow I'm gonna go on the plane. Like, I'm gonna get to the airport on time, get on that plane, land safely, text everyone I love, I arrive safely, and then make it to my destination and then come back. Like, that, like, it's gonna be fine. But I don't know. It's those thoughts that are so overpowering, and I didn't mean to, like, go on a tangent about, like, those intense fears, but it's really overwhelming when you just feel alone. And I guess I just don't want to feel alone in that aspect. Because, like, I was gonna tell my boyfriend, like, what was going on, like, what my sister said that, like, triggered me. But I knew he wouldn't understand, because he's just not that kind of person that has fears, that has phobias. Like, I feel like I'm an anxiety, like, ticking bomb, where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and dying and death is just, like, one of my fears. And it's just like, come on, when does it end? Like, when can I, like, just go back to normal, whatever normal even is nowadays? It's frustrating. I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm scared, I'm sad, like, just a lot of emotions. So I'm sorry I can't be a ray of sunshine right now, because I'm, like, literally going through this right this second. When you listen to this episode, you'll know that I'm okay, because it would have been a few months. Actually, no, maybe not that long ago, but it's just one of those things that I wish I could change about myself, was, like, constantly wanting control. Like, and I think that's where anxiety stems from. Wanting that control, wanting that certainty in a life full of uncertainty. And you just have to be okay with things not turning out the way that you want it to. Maybe not turning out, I should say, but you just have to be okay with things just happening in its own timing. Life just happening. Like, let life be. Trust life. Trust that things happen the way they're supposed to. Like, just trust. And it's hard to trust something that, you know, is so uncertain all the time. But I hope that can at least help ease your mind a little tiny bit. That, like, you know, that you'll be okay, we'll be okay. Like, it's just a matter of our perception. The way that we're perceiving these events in our lives, the way that we're understanding our triggers, understanding our fears, acknowledging them, learning about them, and seeing why they're still there and why they may be more intense some days and not so much others. Like, I don't know why it's just like a little roller coaster. It really, truly is. And no matter what fear you have or what phobia you have, like, it's important. You're important. Like, no phobia or fear is too big or too small. Like, we're not having a competition about whose fear is the biggest, who is the biggest scaredy cat. Like, no. They always say don't belittle yourself. Don't like belittle your fears or your anxiety or your life or your problems. Like, because there's always that person that says like, oh, someone has it worse or you have it better or like it's not that bad. Imagine if it was like this instead of this. And it's something you can't control, because the analogy that she gave was, if there was a boat and that boat was filled with many, many people, and there was a person that was rich, there's a person that's poor on the boat, there's a person that has a great career, there's a person that is a student and they're like studying or something. And like, let's say that boat drowned, okay? No one's gonna say like, oh yeah, that millionaire drowns, or that person, that student, poor student that drowned. Like, okay, at the end of the day, like, they all drowned. Like, every single person. It's just like we're all so similar in so many different ways, which is why it's so important to like try not to compare your problems to others, and at the same time try your best to make sure that you're taking care of your mental health and your mental well-being. And no problem is too big or too small. Like, we all have our battles that we're going through. No life is perfect. No matter how much it seems that way, we only see so much of a person's life. And that goes with influencers, that goes with absolutely anyone. Like, we really don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and that's why we should all like have some sort of empathy and feel for other people, like feel their pain and empathize with them and really listen to what they have to say, listen to their pain and the way that they've managed it and the way that they're overcoming that at the same time. That's all it really takes. And I knew I was going to get a little emotional. Like, I was just like charging up my battery to just prepare myself for the tears that flow down my face. But I really appreciate my viewers, my listeners, just for being here in this moment, like listening and hopefully relating to a few things that I've said. It makes a difference. You guys make a difference, even if you don't even know that you guys are. You guys are my motivators. I'm sorry to say this too, but my boyfriend's my number one fan. He gets really mad when I don't release an episode. I'm trying really, really hard, trust me. But just bear with me. We're all learning so many things each and every day, and most importantly, we're learning about ourselves. And let's just take that time to continue learning about ourselves and continue learning about why we are the way we are, and just kind of understanding that and realizing that like we're all like honestly children. We have our inner child. Let's just say that. We have our inner child. I did a meditation too, and that talked about all of us having like an inner child, and how like sometimes we do think like children, or we're somehow like traumatized by some events that happen as children, because things that happen when you're younger just heighten when you're older. They really, really do. But just be kinder to yourself and your inner child and your fears and phobias that may be overwhelming you just like they're overwhelming me. Learn about it. Let's do something positive to at least recognize and admit that we have those fears, and not saying move on by turning the page and forgetting about it, but let's try to see what we can do to help ourselves cope with this, and be kinder to ourselves when these thoughts overpower us, because we're still learning. I mean, we're still trying to figure things out, and I don't have the answer. If you have the answer how to do it, you tell me, okay? Just DM me on Instagram or put your comment down below on YouTube, letting me know exactly how you do that. And honestly, I'm open for any tips. I was being sarcastic, but then also at the same time, people may know different things. So I'm willing to learn how other people manage their fears and how other people try to overcome that as well. So I really hope this podcast made you smile at least once. Stay tuned for more advice and positivity next Friday. As always, it's Mayra. I hope that you guys were able to take something away from this episode. And as difficult as it is for me to say this, but try your best to be fearless and try your best to understand where you're coming from and understand your triggers and empathize with how you're feeling, because I feel you. I empathize with you so much, and I'm sending you love in case you need it. I sure do. Wish me luck on my flight tomorrow. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, like I said, if you're listening or watching, I already flew. So I flew and came back, and then flew again and came back. That's how the drill is gonna be, right? God. But anyway, take this moment to just embrace what life has to offer in its most beautiful and uncertain and confusing and crazy way. Literally. Bye!